This is a Hurricane Milton update issued on Sunday evening, October the 6th. I'm Michael Groff, and since our last video nearly 24 hours ago, quite a bit has changed with Milton. It's now become a hurricane, Category 1, top winds at 85 miles per hour as it continues to churn over the western Gulf of Mexico. Further intensification is anticipated, so we're going to take you through the latest particulars, the advisories. We'll take a look at modeling as well as we dive on in and talk about it. All right. Let's first start out by taking a look at the broader view of the tropics here, the Atlantic Basin as a whole. We've got three systems on the board. There's Kirk, there's Leslie, there's Milton. Kirk is providing some pretty large swells to the east coast of the United States, but this overall is not going to have any direct impact beyond that. And this is becoming a post-tropical system as it will move eastward toward Western Europe. Leslie is a hurricane for now, but this should weaken as it continues to gain latitude. This will harmlessly move out to sea in all likelihood and should not directly impact the United States. But the focus is on Milton. And reconnaissance aircraft has gone in here, and we continue to see a lowering of the pressure. And obviously on the satellite presentation, that is apparent that intensification is occurring. And we anticipate further strengthening, perhaps rapid intensification over the next 24 to 36 hours. Now, yes, there is a bit of shear here, but for the most part, conditions are favorable for further strengthening with Milton all the way until the time that this makes landfall somewhere over the Florida Peninsula. All right, so here is the latest advisory. Top winds 85 miles per hour, Category 1. And probably by the time we do another update on this tomorrow, this may very well become a major hurricane by that time. Yes, it may only take another 18 to 24 hours for this to ramp up to a Category 3. And then it will begin to accelerate as it makes a turn toward the northeast. Right now, it's kind of sluggishly been moving all day at around 5 to 7 miles per hour to the east, even meandering a little southeast at times. But this, as it kind of skirts along the northern part of the Yucatan Peninsula, this will eventually make that turn to the northeast and begin to move faster. Now, the latest track from the Hurricane Center, the biggest change over the last 24 hours has been to shift the forecast track a little bit further to the south. And not by much, but when you're talking about a hurricane of this magnitude, any change in the path has significant implications for those areas right along, and in the case of this, just east and south of where this makes landfall. So now the latest is to bring this in as a Category 3, somewhere pretty close to Sarasota, perhaps just south of Sarasota or between Sarasota and Venice. And that's obviously south of Tampa and St. Petersburg. But that doesn't mean you're out of the woods in Tampa, and that doesn't mean that you still couldn't see some significant storm surge, but the implications and the impact from this would be less so than what we were looking at with the forecast yesterday. Still very heavy rain, damaging wind, and some flooding, inundation from storm surge and heavy rain would still be possible in this scenario. No one should be letting their guard down. And obviously, this would be a very bad situation for Sarasota, Venice, even down to Fort Myers, the entire west coast of Florida, really, from about Newport Richey all the way south to Fort Myers, and even the Keys would see some fairly significant impact from Milton in this forecast setup. But as you can see here on this advisory, the cone of uncertainty is still fairly large and really goes from the Nature Coast all the way down to Fort Myers. So really everybody on the peninsula needs to still be prepared for this storm, and all of your preparation should be underway right now. And as we're going to go through here in a moment, you really should be preparing for the worst case scenario, even if that doesn't pan out. All right, looking at modeling here off the tropical model set, the ATCF set, pretty good clustering here still across central Florida. And again, there's been a very slight shift to the south, but still there's a lot of possibilities here from north of Tampa to down to around Venice. And yeah, you see there's one model that brings it into southeast Texas and another one up toward the mouth of the Mississippi. Again, we discount those. The GFS ensemble, the The mean is the black line, the squares there, and you can see that this ensemble guidance here is a little further to the north. The GFS has remained further to the north in this path. And this brings it up right around Tampa Bay and even just north of Tampa, some of these solutions. In fact, there is a few that bring it all the way up to around Cedar Key. And again, we'll show you that in the deterministic modeling in a second. The Canadian model has this going much further to the south. This brings it closer to Fort Myers and across the southern part of the Florida Peninsula. This would be Fort Myers and West Palm Beach, and those areas would be seeing the storm crossing right overhead, basically. So again, there's a wide range of solutions, and as we get more data, more reconnaissance data, more model data, we'll have a better idea as to the exact path. But really, the exact path, yes, it matters. It absolutely matters. But everybody should be preparing for it regardless, because even if you're not in the direct path, you will feel significant effects from this storm. Let's look at the intensity guidance here. And again, most of the models, unlike yesterday, now most of the models are on board with a Category 2 or 3 storm. But you have several that bring it up to Category 4 strength, and there's a couple that even ramp it all the way up to Category 5. And again, we don't want to see that, and I don't think that's going to happen, but it could. There's that outside chance. And again, on this channel, we talk about this a lot. We don't do hype here, clickbait, or all this, but there are times for a call to action. And the call to action right now is if you have the ability to get out, if you have the ability to move out of the path of this storm, I would advise that you consider doing so, really from Tampa on south to Fort Myers. If you're along the coast anyway, for sure. And again, some of these areas were very hard hit by Helene, particularly from the Nature Coast and up into the Big Bend and into South Georgia and all the way down to Tampa. And these areas were very hard hit. And some of those areas, again, particularly from potentially Cedar Key to Tampa, you could be hit again. And the infrastructure obviously is still damaged as a result of what happened with Helene. There's still places that don't have power. There are still roads that are washed out. So, this is one of those things where I would advise to heed all the evacuations of the local authorities and do all of that. But that is ultimately your call. But as we have seen over the last week or so, that is probably the safe bet if you are given that evacuation, that notice. Might want to get out. And again, prepare for the worst case scenario. All right, let's take a look at another aspect of this storm that is often overlooked, and that's rainfall. A lot will be made about storm surge, as it should, and flooding, inundation from storm surge, but this will be producing some heavy rain. And look, we're already getting plenty of rain across central and north Florida due to a very unstable air mass that's in place right now. But as Milton approaches, we're going to see these very heavy rain bands. Yes, this system will be moving at a good clip. This is not going to stall out and dump 50 inches of rain, but we're still going to see widespread 5 to 10 inch rain amounts across central Florida. Some spots will probably see more than that. This is the graphic courtesy of the WPC. Now, the swath of the heaviest rain might be shifted a little further south if, in fact, the track does go further south. But for now, that's how it looks. And pretty much everybody in the Florida Peninsula is going to see at least 3 inches of rain with this. And the rainfall gradient very tight. You're up toward the Panhandle, you're not going to get much of anything. And that's great news because they're the last folks that need it up there. All right, so let's go through modeling here. This is the 18Z GFS. And this is valid at 11 a.m. on Thursday morning. Now, this is a much slower solution. This is the slowest, but it's also the strongest solution of the deterministic models, okay? This is a deterministic model. This is not an official forecast by any means, but this run of the GFS brings Milton much further to the north. This keeps it pretty close to Cedar Key, just south of Cedar Key, making landfall by about 11 a.m. on Thursday morning. So that's an interesting solution. Again, this is a clear outlier, but the GFS has been pretty consistent on this. But I believe that right now the official track from the Hurricane Center is much farther south, and that's probably the better solution. But still, we want to show you this just so you have the information. And that's why we say there's still possibilities for this to occur. Now, in this setup, given this at face value, this would probably be an upper end Category 3, maybe Category 4. If this verifies. And then by roughly 8 p.m. Thursday evening, I mean, this thing's out of here. Or at least it's moving off the East Coast. Now, it'd still be bringing some heavy rain to Jacksonville and up towards Savannah. And the East Coast of Florida would still be getting some very strong winds on the back side of this, but it would be moving away rather quickly. So, this an initial slow solution, and then it begins to accelerate as it moves across the peninsula. The European is further south. And again, this has been fairly consistent. It's pretty close to Tampa Bay, but it's faster, at least a little faster than the GFS. This is 11 p.m. on Wednesday. And again, this is a little slower than the official forecast from the Hurricane Center, but still, you get the idea here. This has it coming up pretty close to Tampa Bay by 11 p.m. Wednesday. Now, one thing to keep in mind, again, where that low center is, look, that doesn't matter for most of you across the entire Florida Peninsula. You'll be getting strong winds anywhere from West Palm Beach all the way up to Orlando to Jacksonville. You can see tropical storm force winds easily, and some of you will see hurricane force winds. So don't get too focused on the exact center point of this of the low pressure area of the center of the hurricane, the main track here. We want to emphasize that everyone on the Florida Peninsula could potentially be under the gun from this. But this would be the worst case scenario for Tampa Bay, obviously, and this would bring significant storm surge in. But again, it starts to accelerate as it crosses the Florida Peninsula, nearly ready to move off the east coast of Florida by Thursday morning at 8 a.m. Now let's show you the European AI. This is, again, a model that has done very well this season. And it, too, like we were seeing yesterday, this is a very consistent model as well. This is a little further to the south. And again, the National Hurricane Center folks are probably basing it more toward this model and toward the ensemble means as well. And so the European AI is definitely a little further south and continues just the slightest push further south with each run. And so again, Tampa Bay is not out of the woods in this scenario, but maybe not quite. You may not see the worst impact from this necessarily, but it would still be pretty bad. We'd probably still see some 5 to 10 foot storm surge, maybe worse. Now, this is also not quite as strong as the GFS solution either. This would be somewhere in the upper end Category 2, low end Category 3, but that's still significant. Look, there's even a Category 1 hurricane could easily take your life. And again, we don't say that to scare anybody here, but 80, 85 mile per hour winds, it's all it takes to knock down a tree, to knock down power lines, to rip the roof off a house. So, we want you to take this seriously regardless of what intensity this winds up becoming. The European AI moves this off the east coast of Florida fairly quickly. Again, within about 12 hours or so. You can see this is a little bit faster solution. This is 8 p.m. on Wednesday. This has this making landfall, or very close to making landfall, just south of Tampa Bay. And by the next morning, 12 hours later, 8 a.m. Thursday, this is off the east coast of Florida, still bringing some very heavy rain to the east coast, and obviously some strong winds there, but moving away quickly. So again, that's the latest modeling here. Let's show you. I'm hesitant to even show this, but this is the GFS. Let's go back to the GFS. This is Tuesday, the 15th of October. Why am I showing you this? Well, because I've seen this circulating around social media. The latest GFS, again, this is the 18Z GFS, develops another tropical cyclone down there in the southwest Caribbean, brings it up the Yucatan Channel and curves it hard to the right. across the western tip of Cuba. And ultimately, again, this is 8 a.m. on Tuesday the 15th. By 8 a.m. Wednesday the 16th, it's got this passing over the Florida Strait there, southeast of Key West. And this would have it passing south of Miami. Yes, another tropical system. And again, look, I think we all have tropical cyclone fatigue at this point. But this is information. We're just showing you this because it's out there. It's on social media. Do I think this is going to happen? Probably not. Most of the model guidance does not have this, but it's something that we're just going to mention. And this is hurricane season. And this has been slated to be an active hurricane season. It was very quiet through most of the year, basically through all of August and into early September, and now it has picked up. And so this is a possibility. And this is kind of starting to seem like some of the more active hurricane seasons that we've had. Now, this is Rainfall. This is off the European Ensemble. This is for the Tampa area. This is over the next 2 weeks. This goes out through the 20th of October. And you can see about 8 inches of rain is what the ensemble mean is here for Tampa. Most of that from Milton. Orlando, pretty much the same thing. You got some members, of course, that are obviously much higher than that, but the ensemble mean, and that's really how you want to approach these things, the mean, the average, about 8 inches of rain. So significant rainfall and some flooding just from rain would be a possibility as well. And obviously wind, and then the isolated tornadoes. These are all possibilities with landfalling hurricanes. So you have to be aware of all of the potential hazards. All right, so very quickly, let's reset where we're at here. Milton, Category 1 hurricane, top winds 85 miles an hour. It's out over the western Gulf of Mexico. Rapid intensification is anticipated to occur over the next 24 hours. The forecast track for the National Hurricane Center has shifted very, very slightly to the south, with the center of Milton expected to cross somewhere close to Sarasota, maybe just south of Sarasota, by Wednesday afternoon and Wednesday evening. And again, that's the official track from the National Hurricane Center. And of course, we'll get you an update. Our next update on Milton, we'll have one for you tomorrow. Plus, in addition to that, we're going to get you our normal Phoenix, Arizona weather discussion that we present to you on this channel. And yes, we had another record-breaking day of heat here. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. We'll get you the latest on Milton. We'll have all the particulars on that. Both on our Phoenix, Arizona weather discussion, we'll kind of briefly summarize that, and then we'll have a full Milton discussion during the day tomorrow. But yes, we hit 113 degrees here in Phoenix again today. This is the all-time record, the hottest day ever in the month of October. So tying with the record that we established earlier this month. Yes. So we'll get you that. All right. The executive producer of this Hurricane Milton update is my one and only, the sweetest of all time, the Asian sensation and proprietor of sweetchildaz.com.org and the Facebook page of the same name, Sweet Child Arizona, talking about my Michelle. Check her out. Check out everything Michelle related, linked up down in the description. And our streaming station, it's available 24/7, 365. It is called KMGX. We play a ton of music over there, have a lot of fun with that too, so give that a listen. That's KMGX. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. All of your continued support, so greatly appreciated. Really, really thank you so much for checking us out. Be safe. And you guys have yourselves a beautiful rest of your Sunday evening.